And also joining us this afternoon is public finance analyst Zaiza Suzara. Happy birthday, Zaiza.
Happy birthday, Saisa.
Happy birthday.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Sec Ronald. And
Siyempre, yun ang inuna eh.
First things first.
But your audio is a little bit choppy,
Medyo
I
mahina.
think. A little bit choppy lang. Can we try that again?
can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
I think that was an improve. Pero parang nag-iba ng konti yung
Mahina.
Mahina.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's try. Anyway, you were quoted as saying or as describing the proposed budget for next year as an election budget. Can you walk us through that? Why do you say it's an election budget?
Yeah. Okay, so in the last week, I've had a chance to look at the proposed national budget a bit more in depth. And if you recall in our previous conversation, they did say that the budget was reactive, it is patronage driven, and there's that LGF budget. So one thing I'd like to point out first before I discuss the structure of the proposed 2027 budget is to say that the fiscal space in the proposed 2027 budget is a lot narrower compared to the fiscal space of our previous year's budget. So dun sa 7.2 trillion peso proposed budget natin, ang totoong pwede lang natin magastos doon is 1.15 trillion pesos only. Kasi everything else is for the mandatory allocation. That's the debt servicing, the national tax allotment of the LGU, the cost of running government. So the cost of running government would be the overhead cost, of course, and the personnel services or yung salaries and benefits. So that's 2 trillion pesos. Cost of running government, 1.5 trillion pesos almost. And then you add the NTA, which is 1.3, and then the debt servicing 1.1 trillion. So natitira na lang talaga 1.15 trillion pesos. So bakit ko binabanggit yon? Kasi kung yan na lang ang narrow, very narrow na ang ating fiscal space, if you were the government, you would want to allocate that very narrow fiscal space into things that are really high impact and priority ng administration mo. But when I looked at the budgets, you would see that most of the budget for human capital development, so the budgets of DepEd for basic education, the XUCs, SHED, even TESDA, they were all cut. The budget for DOH, they were also, many of the program budgets were also cut. The budget for livelihood support under the programs of the DSWD, like the Sustainable Livelihood Program and the Kalahi Seeds Program, they were also cut. Pati na rin yung mga agricultural support programs ng Department of Agriculture. Marami ring cut. Pero kung titingnan natin, ano ba yung mga na-maintain sa budget, dun sa narrow fiscal space, kung makikita natin yung figures, lahat halos ng malalaki ang na-maintain amounts ay yung para sa soft pork at hard pork. And then, if you recall, the LGSF, the Local Government Fund, which I flagged as a discretionary fund in our previous conversation. Pag in-add mo yung mga soft pork budget na nasa DSWD, ma-iflip na nasa DOH, the tupad program ng DOLE, the favorite programs of legislators in the DPWH budget, that would amount to 400 plus billion. So, ibig sabihin, natitira na lang around 700 billion pesos. Tapos yung 700 billion pesos na yun, paghahatian pa yun ng napakaraming departments and agencies, including the special purpose funds for things like, ngayon, yung segment before this interview, di ba, tungkol sa baha, so nakalakad. So, paghahati-hatian pa yung 700 billion na lang natitira. So, ibig sabihin, yung talagang dapat na pagtutuunan ng budget, hindi doon nakatuon. Kasi 37% of the narrow fiscal space, the 1.15 trillion pesos I'm talking about, are for patronage-driven budget. So definitely, ang nakikita natin sa proposed budget, election ang priority. Kasi kitang-kita mo yun dun sa mga numero. And even if DBM would say that the programs were substantially reduced in the budgets of DSWD, DOH, DOLE, and even in DPWH. Totoo naman, substantially reduced sila. But comparatively, kung i-compare mo sila doon sa mga regular programs ng lahat ng ahensya na nabanggit ko para ma-fulfill yung mandato, ma-address yung iba-iba nating krisis sa lipunan ng education crisis, yung tumataas na presyo ng pagkain. Yung mga bagay na para doon, na-cut din kasi yung mga yun eh. At ang natitira na marami pa rin ang allocation, even despite a cut compared to the levels enacted by the BICAM, they still amount to a total of 400 billion pesos.
Pero, Saiza, kung halimbawa meron kang magic wand, no? Kung halimbawa ikaw ang meron kang pwedeng gawin dyan sa budget na yan, saan mo ilalagay? Saan dramatically mo ilalagay yung mga binabanggit mo na mga pang-eleksyon? Pang-eleksyon. Dahil yung sa debt, wala kang magagawa ron. Yung sa mga sahod ng mga kwan, wala ka nang magagawa ron. Yung MUP, yung mga kwan, wala ka nang magagawa ron, etc., etc. So, yung sinasabi mo na window, saan mo siya ilalagay? Eh, lalo na, wala namang practically less than 2 years na lang yung gobyerno.
Well,
wala silang magagawang structural na mga na long term di ba?
And certainly hindi sila mag-introduce ng bagong tax at this stage.
Yes, so very short term, very tactical din yung nakaharap sa kanila So anong pwedeng gawin doon? Kung ikaw halimbawa ang masusunod.
Kung ako yung masusunod, siguro yung programa na high impact na kayang i-implement within the next 2 years. For example, pagdating sa education, sabihin natin, isa sa pinakamalala kasi na problema natin yung stunting and malnutrition. So yung early childhood care and development, na hindi naman ganun kakomplikadong gawin. Kumpara for example sa yung construction ng mga classrooms, yung mga PPP, kasi mahaba pa yung mga proseso na pagdadaanan doon. Halimbawa, yung mga bagay katulad ng school-based feeding program ng DepEd, tsaka yung supplementary feeding program ng DSWD. Problema nga natin yung malnutrition at spending. So bakit yun ang ikakat mo? In both the budgets of DepEd and DSWD, nakat sila ng, I think yung supplementary feeding program ng DSWD, 6 billion yung cut. In the same way, yung school-based feeding program rin ng DepEd, nakat din. So that's one, yung mga pwede pang i-implement within the next 2 years. Siguro yung mga learning support programs din ng DepEd, and definitely yung sa DOH, nagtataka ako kasi sinabi ng presidente, di ba, pinagyabang niya doon sa SONA yung zero-based billing sa mga hospitals. Zero out siya sa 2027 NEP. Ikukumpara mo yun, for example, sa project sa program ng DOH na Health Facilities Enhancement Program, construction, and yung pagbili ng equipment. Siyempre, complicated yung design, complicated yung procurement process niyan. Pero yung zero-based hospital billing, madali lang yun Ibababa lang yun essentially ng national government, particularly ng DOH, dun sa iba't ibang hospital. I think the system is already there. Pwede siyang i-implement. Yung agricultural productivity programs, yung mga support programs na talaga namang ini-implement na yan ng DA. So bakit yung mga kinat? Kasi nung tiningnan ko yung budget ng DA, yung program support nila, program support, sub-program, something like that. Para yun sa mga iba't ibang crops na pinuproduce ng ating agricultural sector. At regular program siya ng DA. So, yung budget na yun, nakatrend across the board para sa lahat ng crops na sinusuportahan natin ng DA, yung mga multi-sector. So, at least man lang yung sa mga ganong klaseng programs that would still somehow contribute to human capital development dun sa napakaikling runway ng administrasyon. Sana yun na lang yung inuna imbis na napakalaki na naman na budgets para sa ayuda. Or for example, balikan din natin yung sinabi ko na livelihood support. Kapag nakakausap namin sa People's Budget Coalition, yung mga miyembro ng 4Ps, hindi naman ayuda ang hinihingi nila eh. Ang hinihingi nila livelihood support. Kasi, ayan, pinagyayabang natin na malaki na yung nabawas dun sa poverty incidents. Pero government rin naman ang nagsasabi na marami sa kanila, about 1.8 million, are also at risk sliding back down below the poverty line. Paano yun? Di ba ang kailangan mo doon livelihood support? Para magkaroon sila ng income at doon naman sa agricultural productivity para naman may chance na kahit papaano hindi ganun kataas ang presyo ng pagkain at ng ating agricultural product. So, siguro kahit man lang doon sa mga ganung klaseng programs na hindi komplikado ang design, hindi komplikado ang procurement na kailangan gawin. Regular programs naman sila ng government. Sana doon tinuon yung limited fiscal space na.
Nabanggit mo kanina yung education na rin eh. Let me, tuhoy ko na yung education kasi when we were talking to our reporter was covering yesterday yung House deliberations, yung CHED budget sa NEP, from 60 ginawang 30-something, basically half. So it's a big chunk. And you know, yung the 30 plus is still way below yung inapproved na budget ng CHED for this year and for the previous year. So
The CHED was asking for about 70 billion, naging 35 point something billion na pinapropose ng DBM.
yeah. So what does that tell you?
Hello?
Saiza, can you hear us?
Yeah. I can hear you.
Yeah. I was saying, what does that tell you? Na yung CHED has that big a cut.
Yeah. Actually, hindi lang talaga yung basic education, kundi yung higher education, type of education. And the explanation of DBM, the economic managers in general, that the absorptive capacity of these agencies are poor. That's why the budgets are cut. Pero kasi ang mas importanteng tanong, okay, poor ang absorptive capacity ng mga ahensya, pero anong ginagawa ng government para ayusin yung capacity na yon? Kasi aayusin yung capacity. Who are we saying that we just keep cutting budgets every single year that they are not able to reach their target? And the consequence of that is all of the development gaps, whether that's education, whether that's social protection, health, or livelihood, those gaps will widen. So ang tanong, anong ginagawa ng pamahalaan para ayusin yung tinatawag nating state capacity? Kasi naiintindihan natin siya. From a financial management perspective, that makes sense. But again, I will always say, the budget cannot be divorced from policy and governance. So, dun sa governance na side, anong ginagawa para ayusin yung capacity ng mga ahensya na yan? Di ba yan yung trabaho ng buong cabinet? Yan yung trabaho ng presidente. Pukutan yung mga ahensya para yung mga bagay na sabi nilang target nila, magawa nila within the year, ang deliver nila. Nang sa ganun, hindi palaging dahilan for absorptive capacity kung bakit nakakat budgets ng iba't ibang mga ahensya.
Sa yung nakaraan nating interviews namin sa'yo, you mentioned the local government support fund as another form of pork barrel, ano?
Yes.
Saka sinabi rin ni Panfilo Lacson, yun naman daw 3 billion for evacuation centers, lump sum din, na questionable din. Can you tell us more about it? Siguro yung local support fund muna, LGSF.
Yes, I haven't seen actually the lump sum in, I suppose that's in the DPWH budget, yung evacuation center. Pero pag-usapan natin yung local government support fund, lump sum fund siya eh. Sa totoo lang, si LGSF ay several lump sum fund. If you recall our conversation, di ba? Tatlo yan, tatlong major. the NTF-LCAP, which is a lump sum, the Financial Assistance to Local Government Unit, also a lump sum, the Growth Equity Fund, also a lump sum. There's actually a fourth, but that's just 1 billion pesos yung para sa participatory budgeting. So, ang danger kasi dyan, discretionary yan eh. Pag in-approve yan ng Kongreso, at this point in time, and even pagdating ng enactment yan, hindi naman natin alam ano yung listahan. Sasabihin lang dun sa special provision yan, and even in the proposed National Expenditure Program, may special provision kung ano yung purpose ng mga yan. Yung problema, hindi naman yan maayos ang criteria. Wala namang geographic prioritization, halimbawa, yung NTF at saka yung financial assistance to local government.
Yeah.
So, ang sinasabi ng economic managers is, of course, policy-wise, devolution ang priority, pero nandun din yung gusto nila magkaroon ng equity among the different local government units. Pero how do you achieve equity when you do not follow a criteria? Yung sa Growth Equity Fund, fine, that's going to be concentrated on fourth and fifth class municipalities. At least yun, may objective parameters. But the other two, hindi natin alam kung ano talaga yung geographic priority, ano yung pang parameters, consideration para unahin ang LGU over another. And to me, it's particularly worrisome when I check the 2026 LGSF. Kasi sa 2026, malaki na rin yung allocation for local government support fund. Yung tinignan ko kasi yung dashboard ng DBM kung saan-saan nire-release ang mga yan. Kung titingnan mo kung sino-sino yung mga top regions na nakakatanggap, those are not the poorest regions. In fact, those regions are number one, the vote-rich regions, and the regions that contribute the highest to the GDP. Regions 4A, NCR, region pang-apat yung region 1. So that says something. So may disconnect dun sa stated policy ng DBCP o ng economic managers patungkol sa devolution at saka dun sa pinapakita ng actual releases kung paano talaga nagamit ang local government fund this year at kung paano siya maaaring gamitin din in the next fiscal year kapag napasa yung 2027 national budget. May isang issue rin tayo pagdating dun sa proseso ng pag-approve niyan. Kasi nga, at this point in time, hindi mo naman alam ano yung listahan ano talaga yung uunahin. I-determine yan, lump sum siya ngayon. So it's discretionary. I-determine yan ng executive branch. I-approve whether ng DPM or ng Malacanang, depende kung ano sasabihin sa guidelines.